Zwolle, Netherlands, April 14th, 1945, 2340 hours. Private Léo Major crouches in the shadows beside a burning Gestapo headquarters, reloading his Sten gun while German soldiers scream orders in the darkness 50 yards away. He is alone. His best friend died 6 hours ago, shot in the chest by an SS patrol at the city entrance. Major's left eye socket is empty, covered by a black eye patch. A phosphorus grenade exploded in his face in 1944, destroying his eye. The doctors told him his war was over. Major refused medical discharge and returned to combat. "I only need one eye to kill Germans," he told them. Now, at 24 years old, this one-eyed French-Canadian is executing the most insane military operation in modern warfare. He is liberating an entire city by himself. Zwolle has 50,000 civilians. The German garrison, 93 SS soldiers. Major's plan is simple. Make enough noise to convince the Germans that the entire Canadian army is attacking. Force them to flee before dawn. Save the city from Allied artillery that will level it in 6 hours. For the past 4 hours, Major has been running through the streets of Zwolle like a demon, throwing grenades into German positions, firing his Sten gun at shadows, setting buildings on fire, screaming in French, English, and German. The SS soldiers think they're surrounded by hundreds of enemy troops. They're not. It's one man, one eye, 93 enemies, 0 backup. Major checks his ammunition. 3 magazines left for the Sten gun, 9 grenades, 2 pistols with 7 rounds each. He's been fighting non-stop for 6 hours. He's killed at least 11 German soldiers. He's captured 8 more and handed them to Dutch resistance fighters. He's set 4 buildings on fire. He's convinced most of the garrison that Zwolle is being overrun. But 40 SS soldiers remain. Hardcore fighters who won't retreat without orders. Major needs to find their commanding officer, convince him to evacuate, or kill him and scatter the rest. He has 6 hours until dawn. At 0600, Canadian artillery will open fire. 5,000 shells will rain down on Zwolle. Every building will burn. Thousands of civilians will die, unless Major succeeds. He stands up, pulls the pin on a grenade, and throws it through the window of the building beside him. The explosion tears through the ground floor. German soldiers come running. Major opens fire with the Sten gun. 3 men drop. The rest scatter. Major runs into the darkness, heading toward the SS headquarters on Sassenstraat. He doesn't know that 8 SS officers are waiting for him there. He doesn't know that one of them has orders to execute him on sight. He doesn't know that in the next 45 minutes, he will fight the most intense close-quarters battle of the entire war. What Major does know is this: his best friend Willie Arsenault died getting him into this city, and Major made Willie a promise before he died. "I'll finish the mission. I'll save this city. I swear it." Major keeps his promises. April 1945. The war in Europe is ending. Germany is collapsing from east and west. Soviet forces are 30 miles from Berlin. American forces have crossed the Rhine. British and Canadian forces are pushing through Holland, liberating cities one by one. But liberation has a terrible cost. Every German-occupied city becomes a battlefield. Artillery bombardments level entire neighborhoods. Thousands of civilians die in the crossfire. The city of Rotterdam was destroyed in 1940. 40,000 buildings burned. 900 civilians killed. The Germans did that. But by April 1945, the Allies are causing just as much destruction, because the Germans won't surrender. They fortify every city, every town, every village. They turn churches into machine gun nests, schools into ammunition depots, hospitals into command centers. And when Allied forces attack, they use artillery first. Thousands of shells, flatten the defenses, then send in the infantry. The problem: the civilians are still there, hiding in basements, trapped in rubble, dying by the hundreds every time a city is liberated. By April 1945, the Dutch were starving. The hunger winter had killed 20,000 civilians. The Germans had cut off food supplies as punishment for Dutch resistance. People were eating tulip bulbs to survive. Children were dying of malnutrition. And now, the final weeks of the war, Allied artillery was about to kill thousands more. Unless someone could liberate cities without artillery support, without massive bombardments, without leveling entire neighborhoods. The Canadian First Army had been fighting through Holland since February. They had liberated dozens of towns. But Zwolle was different. Zwolle was a transportation hub. Railroad lines connected it to Germany. The Germans needed it to evacuate their remaining forces. Intelligence estimated 150-200 SS soldiers fortifying the city. Canadian commanders planned a standard assault, artillery bombardment at dawn, 5,000 shells in 2 hours, flatten German positions, then infantry moves in, estimated civilian casualties, 2,000-4,000, but acceptable losses to break German resistance. On April 13, 1945, Major General Guy Simons gave his battalion commanders their orders. Zwolle will be taken by Aero 800 on April 15th. Artillery begins at 0600, no exceptions. Major's commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Jacques Dextraz, was sick about it. He knew the civilian cost. He knew thousands would die. He asked his scout platoon for volunteers to attempt reconnaissance before the bombardment. If we can determine exact German positions, maybe we can reduce civilian casualties. Maybe we can convince them to surrender. It's a suicide mission. The odds of success are maybe 1%. I need 2 volunteers. Every man in the scout platoon raised his hand. Dextraz picked 2. Private Léo Major, Corporal Willy Arsenault. The mission: infiltrate Zwolle at night, make contact with Dutch resistance, map German positions, return by 0400 with intelligence. If possible, convince Germans to evacuate peacefully. Standard reconnaissance. Estimated survival rate, 20%. Major and Arsenault accepted immediately. They were best friends. They had fought together since D-Day. They had survived Normandy, Belgium, the Scheldt. They trusted each other completely. At 1800 hours on April 14th, Major and Arsenault crossed the canal into Zwolle under cover of darkness. They moved carefully, avoiding German patrols. They had gone maybe 400 yards when they spotted an SS checkpoint blocking the main road. 4 soldiers, 1 machine gun. Major and Arsenault could have bypassed it, should have bypassed it, but the soldiers were torturing a Dutch civilian. Arsenault looked at Major. Major nodded. They opened fire. The firefight lasted 30 seconds. All 4 German soldiers died, but the machine gun got Arsenault. 3 rounds through the chest. He died instantly. Major knelt beside his friend's body. He closed Arsenault's eyes. He took his ammunition and grenades, and he made a promise. I'll save this city, Willie. I swear to God, I'll save it. Then Major stood up, checked his weapons, and walked deeper into Zwolle. Alone. Léo Major was born January 23, 1921, in New Bedford, Massachusetts. His parents were French-Canadian, working in the textile mills. When Major was 6 months old, his family moved back to Montreal, Quebec. Major grew up poor. His father abandoned the family when Major was 8. His mother worked 14-hour shifts in a garment factory. Major quit school at 14 to work and help support his family. He worked as a laborer, a truck driver, a factory worker. By 18, he stood 5 feet 10 inches and weighed 185 pounds of muscle. He was known for 3 things: fighting, stubbornness, and an absolute refusal to back down from anyone. By age 16, Major had been in 23 fistfights. He won 22 of them. The one he lost was against a man twice his size with a knife. Major had no knife. He lost that fight. But he tracked the man down 3 days later and beat him unconscious with a tire iron. When the police asked why, Major said simply, "He pulled a knife on me. That's not fair." Major's sense of fairness was absolute. Rules existed to make fights fair. If you broke the rules, you deserved whatever happened next. On September 10, 1940, Germany had conquered France. Britain stood alone. Canada entered the war as Britain's ally. Major was 19 years old, working in a factory, watching newsreels of German victories. He walked into a recruiting station and enlisted, not because he loved Canada, not because he hated Germans, but because someone needed to fight them. And Major knew how to fight. The recruiting sergeant asked Major why he wanted to join. "Because the Germans are winning," Major said. "That's not fair." The sergeant stared at him. "Son, war isn't about fairness." "Then I'll make it fair," Major replied. He was assigned to the Régiment de la Chaudière, a French-Canadian infantry unit. Boot camp at Valcartier, Quebec. 3 months of training. Major excelled at everything physical: running, marching, hand-to-hand combat. He struggled with following orders. Drill sergeants would scream at him for doing things his own way. Major would listen politely, then keep doing things his own way. "Why won't you follow orders?" a sergeant asked him. "Because your orders are stupid," Major said. "If I follow them, people will die." "You can't know that." "Yes, I can. I'm smarter than you." Somehow, Major avoided being kicked out, probably because he was the best shot in the entire company, probably because he could run 10 miles with full pack and still fight, probably because when other soldiers got into fights in bars, Major would wade in and save them. By June 1944, Major was 23 years old. He had trained for 4 years. He had never seen combat. That changed on D-Day. June 6, 1944. Juno Beach, Normandy. The Régiment de la Chaudière landed at 08:15 hours as part of the third wave. Major hit the beach carrying a Lee Enfield rifle, 100 rounds of ammunition, and a complete disregard for German machine guns. The beach was chaos. Artillery shells exploding, machine gun fire from the cliffs, bodies in the surf, burning tanks, medics screaming for help. Major's company suffered 40% casualties in the first 10 minutes. Major didn't get a scratch. He charged up the beach, firing at German positions, throwing grenades into bunkers, dragging wounded men to cover. By nightfall, the Canadians had secured the beach and pushed 6 miles inland. Major had killed 7 German soldiers. He had saved 4 Canadian soldiers. He had disobeyed 11 direct orders. His commanding officer wanted to court-martial him. His battalion commander promoted him to scout. "Major doesn't follow orders," the commander explained. "But he gets results. Put him in reconnaissance where initiative matters more than obedience." For the next 3 months, Major fought through Normandy as part of the scout platoon. His job: move ahead of the main force, find German positions, report back, avoid contact when possible. Major avoided contact exactly 0 times. He would spot a German patrol, radio their position, then attack them anyway. "Why did you engage?" his lieutenant would ask. "Because they were there," Major would reply. "You were supposed to avoid them." "That's stupid. If I avoid them, they'll ambush the main force. If I kill them, the main force is safe." By September 1944, Major had 41 confirmed kills. He had been wounded twice. Both times he refused medical evacuation. Then, on October 8, 1944, everything changed. Major's patrol encountered an SS unit near the Dutch-Belgian border. The firefight erupted without warning. Major killed 3 SS soldiers in the first 10 seconds. The 4th one threw a phosphorus grenade. Phosphorus burns at 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It ignites on contact with air. It cannot be extinguished with water. If it touches skin, it burns through to bone. The grenade exploded 3 feet from Major's face. White-hot fragments tore into his left eye, his cheek, his forehead. His eye socket melted. The pain was beyond description. Major screamed, but he didn't stop fighting. Half-blind, face on fire, Major killed the 4th SS soldier with his K-bar knife. Then he collapsed. Medics reached him 4 minutes later. They expected him to be dead. Instead, Major was conscious, trying to reload his rifle with one hand while holding his destroyed eye in place with the other. "Get me a bandage," Major said calmly. "I need to finish the patrol." The medics evacuated Major to a field hospital. Surgeons removed what was left of his eye. They cleaned the phosphorus burns. They told Major his war was over. "You can't fight with one eye," the surgeon said. "You'll have depth perception problems. You won't be able to aim properly. You're going home." Major looked at the surgeon with his one remaining eye. "I only need one eye to kill Germans," he said, "and I'm not going home until the war is over." The surgeon tried to insist. Major refused medical discharge. He requested a return to his unit. The medical board denied the request. Major went anyway. He walked out of the hospital in November 1944 and hitchhiked 200 miles back to his regiment. When his commanding officer saw him, he was furious. "You're supposed to be in England recovering." "I recovered," Major said, pointing to his black eye patch. "I look like a pirate now. The Germans will be terrified." The commanding officer stared at Major for a long moment. "Can you still shoot?" "Better than anyone else in this regiment." "Prove it." They went to the firing range. Major, with one eye, hit 47 out of 50 targets at 300 yards. The next best shooter hit 38. "Welcome back," the commanding officer said. November 1944, the Battle of the Scheldt. Canadian forces were clearing German positions along the Scheldt River in the Netherlands. The Germans had fortified every town, every bridge, every farm. The fighting was brutal, cold, wet, muddy. Casualties were mounting. On November 10, 1944, Major's company received orders to investigate a missing platoon. 40 Canadian soldiers had been sent to capture a small town near Zeeland. They hadn't reported back. Radio contact, 0. Major and Corporal Willie Arsenault volunteered to find them. They moved through German-occupied territory in darkness, avoiding patrols, checking abandoned positions. At 0200 hours, they found the platoon's equipment. Rifles abandoned, ammunition scattered, blood in the mud, no bodies. The platoon had been captured. Major and Arsenault took cover in an abandoned house to plan their next move. That's when Major saw 2 German soldiers walking along a dike 100 yards away. Arsenault wanted to avoid them. Major wanted prisoners. "We need to know where our men are," Major said. "We can't interrogate corpses." They crept toward the Germans. At 20 yards, Major stood up and pointed his rifle. "Hände hoch!" The Germans spun around, reaching for weapons. Major shot one in the leg. The other surrendered. Major questioned them in broken German. The Canadians were being held in a factory 2 miles away, guarded by approximately 90 German soldiers. A Wehrmacht battalion, not SS, regular army. Arsenault looked at Major. "We need to report this and wait for reinforcements." "No," Major said. "By the time reinforcements arrive, they'll move the prisoners, or execute them. We're going now." "There's 90 of them." "Then we'll need to be smart." Major's plan was simple. Approach the factory, capture the commanding officer, convince him to surrender. If he refuses, shoot him and convince the next officer. Repeat until someone surrenders. They reached the factory at 0400 hours. German sentries patrolled the perimeter. Major and Arsenault moved through shadows, avoiding detection. They found the officers' quarters in a small building beside the factory. Major kicked in the door. Inside, a German captain, 2 lieutenants, and 4 enlisted men, all armed. Major opened fire with his Sten gun. The 2 lieutenants died instantly. The captain dove behind a desk. The enlisted men scattered. Major threw a grenade. The explosion killed 2 enlisted men. The remaining 2 surrendered. Major pointed his rifle at the captain. "Tell your men to surrender," Major said in broken German, "or I burn this building with everyone inside." The captain was terrified. This one-eyed Canadian had just killed 4 men in 10 seconds. He agreed to surrender. Major marched the captain outside at gunpoint. The captain ordered his men to lay down weapons. 93 German soldiers surrendered, to 2 Canadians, one of whom had one eye. Major and Arsenault marched 93 prisoners back to Canadian lines. The guards at the perimeter couldn't believe it. "How many men did you take?" the sergeant asked. 2, Major said. "How many prisoners?" 93. The sergeant stared. "You captured 93 Germans with 2 men?" "No," Major said. "I captured them. Arsenault helped." The commanding officer recommended Major for the Distinguished Conduct Medal, second only to the Victoria Cross. The citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and distinguished service." Major refused the medal. "I don't want it from Montgomery," Major said. General Montgomery was going to present the medal. Major hated Montgomery. He blamed Montgomery for unnecessary casualties during the Scheldt battle. "I won't shake hands with that man," Major said. They gave him the medal anyway. Major threw it in a drawer and never wore it. April 14, 1945. 2100 hours. Major stands over Arsenault's body at the entrance to Zwolle. He closes his friend's eyes, takes his ammunition, makes his promise. Then he walks into the city alone. Zwolle is dark. Blackout regulations. No streetlights, no car headlights, just moonlight and shadows. Major moves carefully, checking every corner, every window, every doorway. At 21:30, he spots a German staff car parked outside a bar. The driver is smoking a cigarette. Major approaches silently. At 10 feet, he raises his Sten gun. "Don't move." The driver freezes. Major zip-ties his hands, gags him, and drags him into the bar. Inside, one German officer, drinking alone. Major walks up behind him, puts the barrel of his Sten gun against the officer's skull. "Don't move. Don't speak. Just listen." The officer nods slowly. Major explains the situation in German. At 0600 hours, 5,000 Canadian artillery shells will hit this city. Every building will burn. Every civilian will die. Every German soldier will die, unless you evacuate now. The officer starts to respond. Major presses the gun harder. "I'm not negotiating. I'm informing you. You have 8 hours to evacuate your garrison. If you're still here at dawn, you'll die with everyone else." Major hands the officer his pistol back, a gesture of good faith. Then he walks out of the bar. The officer sits stunned. He has no idea if this Canadian is telling the truth. He has no idea if there are 2 Canadians or 2,000. But he knows one thing. That one-eyed maniac just gave him back his pistol, which means he's not afraid to die. Major walks 3 blocks, then starts his rampage. He pulls the pin on a grenade, throws it through a window. Boom! Germans come running. Major fires a burst from his Sten gun, then runs. 2 blocks away, he throws another grenade. Boom! More Germans, more gunfire. Major is creating chaos, making the Germans think they're under attack from multiple directions. At 2200 hours, Major finds a Dutch resistance safe house. He knocks in the prearranged pattern. A man opens the door 3 inches. "I'm Canadian," Major says in French. "I need your help." The Dutch resistance had been expecting 2 Canadian scouts. They get one one-eyed madman covered in blood and smoke. Major explains his plan. "I need you to patrol the streets. Spread the word that Canadian forces are in the city. Tell everyone to stay inside. Make the Germans think they're surrounded." The resistance agrees. 10 Dutch fighters, armed with whatever weapons they've hidden for 5 years of occupation. They split up and begin moving through Zwolle, spreading rumors, creating confusion. Major continues his solo assault. At 22:45, he throws a grenade into a German barracks. The explosion kills 3 soldiers. The rest flee into the streets. Major picks them off one by one. At 23:10, Major locates the Gestapo headquarters on Dieserstraat, a 3-story building. Guards at every entrance. Files inside containing lists of Dutch resistance members, collaborators, Jews in hiding. If the Germans take those files when they evacuate, hundreds of Dutch civilians will be executed. Major can't let that happen. He approaches the building from the rear, climbs a drain pipe to the 2nd floor, breaks a window, crawls inside. The building is empty. The Gestapo officers evacuated 2 hours ago, taking their most important files. But the rest remain. Major finds barrels of gasoline stored in the basement. He pours gasoline through every room. Then he strikes a match. The building erupts in flames. German soldiers respond immediately. Major escapes through the front door as firefighters arrive. He disappears into the shadows. At 23:45, Major reaches the SS headquarters on Sassenstraat. This is the heart of German resistance in Zwolle. 8 SS officers, 20 enlisted men, fortified positions, machine guns. This is where the battle will be decided. Major checks his ammunition. 1 magazine for the Sten gun, 30 rounds, 4 grenades, 1 pistol with 7 rounds, against 28 SS soldiers. He pulls the pin on a grenade, counts to 3, and throws it through the front door. Boom! Then he charges in, Sten gun firing. The SS headquarters is a maze of rooms. Major moves through it like a ghost, firing from doorways, throwing grenades around corners. The SS soldiers are elite fighters. They've survived years on the Eastern Front. They don't panic. They coordinate. They try to trap Major between 2 machine gun positions. Major hears them moving. He dives through a window as both machine guns open fire. Glass showers him. Bullets tear through the walls where he was standing 2 seconds earlier. Major lands in the street, rolls to his feet, and runs. The SS follows. Major leads them into a narrow alley. Then he stops, turns, and opens fire. 3 SS soldiers die in the first burst. The rest take cover. Major throws his last grenade. The explosion kills 2 more. But now Major's Sten gun is empty. He draws his pistol, 7 rounds. At least 10 SS soldiers still hunting him. Major runs. He ducks into a house, barricades the door, climbs to the second floor. The SS surrounds the building. They're going to burn him out. Major sees the flames starting downstairs. He has maybe 2 minutes. He loads his last pistol magazine, takes a deep breath, and jumps out the second floor window into the SS soldiers below. Major lands on top of one soldier, breaking the man's collarbone. He shoots another at point-blank range. Then he's fighting hand-to-hand, pistol in one hand, knife in the other. The SS are trained killers. But Major fights like a demon. He shoots one man in the throat, stabs another in the chest, headbutts a third, breaking the man's nose. Then Major's pistol runs dry. He's out of ammunition, out of grenades, surrounded by SS soldiers. He doesn't surrender. He picks up a brick from the rubble and charges. The SS soldiers are stunned by this one-eyed maniac attacking them with a brick. For 3 seconds, they don't fire. Those 3 seconds save Major's life. He reaches the nearest soldier, smashes him in the face with the brick, takes his rifle, and shoots 3 more SS men before they can react. Then he runs again. But this time, the SS don't follow. They've had enough. They've been fighting this one man for 45 minutes. They've lost 11 men, and they still don't know how many Canadians are in the city. The SS commander makes a decision. Evacuate. At 0030 hours on April 15th, the SS begins withdrawing from Zwolle. They load their remaining equipment onto trucks and head east toward Germany. Major watches from the shadows as the convoy leaves. He counts 28 vehicles, approximately 40 soldiers. The garrison is evacuating. His plan worked, but Major's not done. There are still German holdouts in the city, individual soldiers who didn't get the evacuation order, snipers in church towers, machine gun nests protecting withdrawal routes. Major spends the next 4 hours clearing them out. He breaks into houses to rest between firefights. He finds weapons and ammunition from dead German soldiers. At one point, he finds 4 Dutch civilians hiding in a basement. "Is it over?" they ask. "Almost," Major says. "Stay here until morning. The Canadians will be here by 0800. At 0430, Major finds the last German position, a machine gun nest on a rooftop overlooking the main road. 2 soldiers, covering the German evacuation route. Major doesn't have ammunition to take them out, so he climbs the building, sneaks onto the roof, and attacks them with his bare hands. The fight lasts 30 seconds. Both Germans die. Major collapses beside their bodies, exhausted. He's been fighting for 10 straight hours. He's killed at least 20 German soldiers. He's set 6 buildings on fire. He's captured 8 prisoners, and he's liberated an entire city by himself. At 0500, Major walks back through Zwolle toward Canadian lines. Dutch civilians start emerging from their homes. They see this one-eyed Canadian covered in blood, soot, and gun smoke. They realize what he's done. They start cheering. By the time Major reaches the canal, hundreds of Dutch civilians are following him, celebrating. Major crosses the canal at 0545. He finds his commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Dextrays. "Mission accomplished, sir," Major says. "The city is clear. Cancel the artillery strike." Dextrays stares at Major. "Where's Arsenault?" "KIA, first contact." "You went in alone?" "Yes, sir." "How many Germans?" 93 when I entered. Maybe 40 left when they evacuated. I killed 20, captured 8. The rest ran. Dextrays can't believe what he's hearing. "You liberated an entire city by yourself?" "Yes, sir." "In one night?" "Yes, sir." "How?" Major shrugs. "Made a lot of noise, set some fires, shot anyone who didn't run. It wasn't complicated." On April 15, 1945, Canadian forces entered Zwolle expecting to find a burning ruin. Instead, they found a liberated city, 50,000 civilians alive and celebrating, 0 artillery damage. The Dutch resistance explained what happened. 1 Canadian soldier, 1 eye, 1 night, saved the entire city. Major was recommended for his 2nd Distinguished Conduct Medal. The citation, written May 20, 1945, read, "To save as many Dutch lives as possible, it was necessary to know exactly the location of enemy positions. Private Léo Major and Corporal Wilfred Arsenault from the scout platoon volunteered to enter the town and contact the underground to obtain necessary information. At the entrance to the town, was a roadblock guarded by a small group of enemy. The patrol was discovered and the corporal killed. Private Major killed 2 Germans and scattered the others. Undaunted by the death of his friend and comrade, he continued to patrol alone for 6 hours, contacting the underground and forming patrols of local Dutch civilians, with the result that by morning the enemy garrison, menaced from inside and outside, were forced to withdraw as their position became untenable. To urge them on, Private Major had the Gestapo headquarters set on fire. Major was awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal. He was one of only 3 soldiers in British Commonwealth history to receive the DCM twice in separate wars. The people of Zwolle named a street after him, Léo Major. It exists today. Every April 14th, Zwolle celebrates Liberation Day. They remember the Canadian who saved them. They tell his story in schools. They show children pictures of the one-eyed pirate who liberated their city. Major returned to Canada after the war. He married, had 3 children, worked as a pipe fitter. He never talked about what he did. When reporters asked about Zwolle, Major would say, "I just did my job. Arsenault died getting me there. I owed it to him to finish the mission." In 1950, the Korean War started. Major re-enlisted. He was 29 years old, still had one eye, still refused to quit. In November 1951, Major led 20 Canadian soldiers in an attack on Hill 355. They were outnumbered 10-1 by Chinese forces. Major held the hill for 3 days. He was awarded his 2nd DCM for that action, making him the only Canadian to receive the DCM twice. Major finally retired from the military in 1952. He lived quietly in Montreal for the next 56 years. He rarely gave interviews. He didn't like attention. When people called him a hero, he would say, "Heroes are dead. I'm still alive. That makes me lucky, not heroic." On October 12, 2008, Léo Major died of cancer at age 87. His funeral was attended by his family, Canadian veterans, and 42 Dutch citizens who flew from Zwolle to Montreal to honor the man who saved their city. At the service, the mayor of Zwolle said, "Léo Major gave us our freedom. He gave us our lives. We can never repay that debt, but we will never forget him." Today, in Zwolle, there's a monument to Major. Dutch schoolchildren learn his story. When Canadian soldiers visit, the Dutch treat them like heroes, because of what one Canadian did in one night. Major's Distinguished Conduct Medals are displayed at the Musée Régiment de la Chaudière in Lévis, Quebec. His eye patch is in a private collection. His story is finally being told. In 2016, a Canadian documentary team made a film about Major's liberation of Zwolle. Dutch historians verified every detail. They interviewed eyewitnesses. They checked German military records. Everything checked out. Léo Major really did single-handedly liberate a city of 50,000 people in one night. He really did kill 20-plus German soldiers. He really did set the Gestapo headquarters on fire. He really did save thousands of civilian lives. With one eye, no backup, just stubbornness, skill, and an absolute refusal to quit. When asked late in life how he accomplished such an impossible mission, Major said, "I made a promise to my friend, and I keep my promises. It's that simple." But it wasn't simple. It was extraordinary. It was one man against an army. It was courage beyond comprehension. It was Léo Major, the one-eyed pirate who freed an entire city.